Hello there, Bick Benedict here. We're playing Gears 5, Hivebusters, and this is my Inconceivable difficulty guide and walkthrough. We're currently on Chapter 5 of 6. It is entitled The Hunt. So, we have some sections like this at the beginning. We had... I know there was something like this in Gears 5, but it wasn't as long as this. I wouldn't imagine that you have to shoot anything here, so you can get killed by the rocks, so just be careful about that. You can slow yourself down by aiming. And this is in all a pretty succinct chapter. Just basically it's just fights, just one right after the next. And I don't think the checkpoints are altogether bad on this one. So when you come down here, it's going to be some drones that you can kill with the environmental sections here. And then remember, since this is an odd number chapter, we won't be finding any upgrades. I think this might be the single time right there where I was availing myself of his barrier. Remember earlier in the walkthrough I said that he's pretty much useless on unless you're playing as him in co-op. At least the Mac guy. Lonnie's terrific because she has a she has a knife and she'll go kill people for you. But until you can start damaging enemies with his barrier, and even then, I don't know how he damages them with the barrier. I think he has to make contact with them. But this definitely is a co-op sort of thing. But it's nice that it also is really playable and doesn't suffer that much on a single player run of the stage. But the weapons that you take out of this stage are not going to matter. So at the beginning of the 6th and final chapter, they are going to start you with a Lancer GL and a shotgun, no matter what. But fortunately, in the first room of the next chapter, in the very first room that you start out in, I should say, there's a torque bow right behind one of the waterfalls. So it's a good one, and I don't like the final boss either. I think it's way too easy to die on this thing, and it does this thing where it spits acid at you, and it's just a terrible boss. The Gears team, I don't think they've ever made a good boss, and I don't like saying that either. But they're cheap bosses. They really are. Anyway, but this DLC it met with a big amount of approval from the Gears community. A lot of people like it. It got good reviews, and if I remember correctly, it was $20. Which I don't like it when people say that they have to get the most out of their money in order for something to be good, because that's just a little bit too low down for me. I mean, if you have to get your money's worth out of something in order for it to be good, I kind of feel sorry for you, and I really don't like that mentality at all, because something can be short and not have as much of what you're looking for in every minute of it or every hour of the campaign, and it can still be good. It doesn't have to be long. A criterion for something if it's long, if that's all you're looking for, you're not necessarily going to find quality. You're just going to find something that's lengthy. But if that's what truly matters to you, then I'm not going to dispute that with you by any means. But we did have a momentary encounter with that snatcher, but it left. So we've got another checkpoint over here, and I think we've got another sliding section. Yeah, these sections are just kind of obnoxious, because you know that you're not going to be dealing any critical damage to anything, and it's all going to be the same when you come down here. But I think this is one of the final rooms, coming up over here. And yeah, this is probably one of the final rooms. So you have a snatcher over here, and at some point you are going to be asked to kill it. And I think this might be that time. But fortunately, this is inconceivable difficulty, and you're not going to have to deal with it being as much of a tank as it normally is. But it is as deadly as it normally is too, so hopefully we can deal some really good damage on it. I think Hannah got eaten by it or something like that. I'm not sure. Cole's daughter. But again, I'm not interested in the story, because I think you can separate enjoyment of a story and of the mechanics, or a combination. You can like both, and it's absolutely fine. But I think we are finished with that now, and now we've got some drones coming out of this extraction point over here as we finish off killing the swarm. And I don't think any of these sections ever get too ugly. You know, they're pretty tame. And yes, the third person cover trick is tampered with. This is 2021 after all, so they're definitely going to tamper with that for you. I love that, don't you? But as I say, you're never asked to do anything overly taxing on these sections, and you're normally given a pretty good checkpoint that if you die, you're not going to be put too far back. You might have to endure watching some small cutscene, but it's normally not too much. And this, I think, is one of the longer sections over here, because after you kill the last one that spawned initially, I think there's going to be some guys coming out of the middle section, and that's not even the fight altogether done. So let's see what we've got over here. Yeah, in all, I think Chapter 5 was the least remarkable chapter for me personally, because it's just this type of stuff. There's nothing really that stands out on it. It's just a bunch of fights. But that's not to say that it's a bad section or anything. It's just a pretty unremarkable one. Here are the guys that are coming out. There's a couple of them, I think, and then there also should be a heavy at some point. Let's see, do we have a heavy? That should be the heavy. There he is. There's the heavy. What does he have? A mulcher? Looks like a mulcher. But I didn't mean to be controversial when I said that Inconceivable and Insane, that Insane is harder than Inconceivable, but I do kind of feel that it is. I mean, just because the developers say that it's the highest metal, it doesn't mean that it's the hardest difficulty. But anyway, we've got a bastion over here. So I'm telling you, those bastions, they could take quite a few torque rounds if you don't hit them in any critical areas. And I really like that, but I wish they could bring back the old system of when you hover your reticle over enemies and it turning red. I think they could definitely do it without altering the gameplay, because it doesn't alter the gameplay. It's just the HUD sort of. It's just information that you're being given. It's not affecting any part of the gameplay. And you can still have vulnerable areas on enemies too. Oh, we've got a flock. You've got a checkpoint over here though too, so you need not to be worried. And I think this could be the final. No, I remember that there's a checkpoint after this, I think. And there's some more enemies, but you're not responsible for killing the final enemies. It's just one of those situations where you're waiting for the rescue choppers to come and save you and take you out of here. And then there also is, yeah, there's the checkpoint. There also is one part at the end when you're in the island section. And then the 6th chapter is all island as you're tracking down the Wakatu and trying to get the poison and, trying to siphon some of its poison out. But as I say, there should be some more enemies over here. But if you just want to go hide in the back, that's probably the only thing that you have to do. Oh, we've got a Harambe over here, but he doesn't come down. And I'm not really sure what exactly his function here is, unless to put a little bit of pressure on you. Because if you come back here, his canker projectiles are not going to hit you, as long as you're pretty centered in the cover back here. And that's it, yeah. You don't even have to, I mean, you can't finish that, it just takes you out of it. And then on these last sections here, you lose one of your guns. So I know that I was carrying a Lancer GL, but I don't have it anymore. But it doesn't matter, because when the next chapter starts, we're going to have the GL. We're not going to have the torque, but as I mentioned, there's a torque in the first room. So it doesn't at all matter what you pick up over here. And it's basically just running from this thing over here. And the boss too that I mentioned, it being a bad boss, it's also a difficult boss for that reason. For the reason that it's just really cheap. It's so easy to get killed. The checkpoints aren't always that favorable to you. And why am I filling up my ammunition over here? I guess it's just because I wasn't entirely sure what was going to be happening at the beginning of the next stage. But I can definitely tell you that it's going to be the same thing over and over again, where they just give you some default weapons, and it doesn't really matter because you can start making replacements to those very quickly. But I think they really have to stop putting in sections where you're walking slowly, especially on second playthroughs. I mean, if you want to do it on the first playthrough, I guess that's fine, but the person has already seen this stuff, experienced it, listened to the stuff. Just stop putting in those moments where you're walking so slow. Nobody likes that at all. But anyway, that has been chapter 5. I will see you in the 6th and final chapter. Until then, please take care.